With the iPhone SE and the iPhone XR being the least expensive options in Apple's current iPhone lineup, you're bound to wonder which one you should pick for yourself. Well, I've used both these phones extensively to help you decide which is the right phone for you. I'm Rohan, this is TechieTechTech, and here we go. When it comes to the in-hand feel and the construction, both these phones are very similar and yet worlds apart. On the similarities front, both these phones have glass on the front and back and a matte finish aluminum frame, making a glass and aluminum sandwich. The material and finish on both the metal and the glass feels exactly the same on both these phones. Both of them have a single camera on the back with the flash to the right of the camera on the iPhone SE and below the camera on the iPhone XR. On the differences part, the iPhone SE is mostly targeted to users of compact phones. It is much slimmer, much smaller and much lighter than the iPhone XR, which honestly looks like a giant in front of the tiny iPhone SE. Sure, the 2020 SE is significantly bigger than the 2016 OG iPhone SE, but it is still a very small phone by today's standards. So if compactness is of importance to you, the iPhone SE gets the clear win here. Let's flip over to the displays now. Of course, the SE is a recycle of the iPhone 8's design, so we have thick bezels on the top and the bottom along with a home button. The iPhone XR in comparison has a much newer and more modern design with an edge-to-edge display. The bezels on the iPhone XR are generally considered to be on the thicker side, but that's simply not the case when you put it next to the 2015 design of the iPhone SE. Since both of them have very similar display technologies aka LCD and same PPI, the only true difference comes because of the size. Now of course there are a lot of advantages to having a larger display with more space for gaming, multimedia consumption, reading and so on. So of course the iPhone XR has the big advantage over the iPhone SE. If you're not adamant on getting a compact phone, there's just no comparison here. The display design on the iPhone XR looks more modern and gives a far better experience. Let's talk performance now. The iPhone SE has the A13 processor that the iPhone 11 series has, which is a generation newer than the A12 on the iPhone XR. Both these processors are extremely powerful and everything you throw at them, they take it like a champ. Be it regular day-to-day use or intensive games or GarageBand or video editing softwares, performance is similar on both these devices, which is to say that both are as fast as you could possibly want. Of course, the differences will start to show up 1 or 2 years down the line. See, no matter how powerful they are right now, they are bound to lag after some time. Every phone is bound to lag after some time. And the iPhone XR will start to slow down sooner because it has a generation older processor that is powering a larger display with more pixels compared to the iPhone SE, which has a newer processor powering a smaller display. So if you're planning to use your phone for a long time, like 4 to 5 years, perhaps you should keep this factor in mind while making your decision. Let's move on to the cameras now. In terms of optics, both iPhones sport a single 12 megapixel camera on the rear, which is very uncommon these days. The lens modules have an f-stop of 1.8 and 2.2 on the rear and front cameras. Let's find out how these devices perform out there. We'll talk about the photos first and the videos later. The pictures shot on both these devices are very similar in terms of HDR processing and overall color rendering. There is a slight difference present when it comes to noise processing and color temperatures. The iPhone SE produces stills which have better noise processing and less artifacts. On the other hand, the iPhone XR shoots pictures with a slightly wider field of view and warmer color temperatures. One interesting find is that even though the iPhone SE uses the iPhone 8's 2-year-old camera module, it produces somewhat sharper images compared to the pictures shot on the iPhone XR, credit for which goes to the better image processing on the A13 CPU. The portraits out of both the devices look amazing with decent subject separation, although the iPhone XR has the edge when it comes to subject separation accuracy. Now both the devices shoot 7 megapixel stills and portraits from the front cameras. The iPhone SE gets more points for accurate skin tones and better noise processing. On the other hand, the XR produces sharper selfies. There is no dedicated night mode present on both the devices, so low light performance is pretty average on both iPhones. In short, the rear camera performance is extremely similar in both devices with only minor differences. When we talk about the videos, the video department specs are identical for both the devices. Both the iPhone XR and the iPhone SE can shoot videos in 4K up to 60 fps from the rear cameras and in Full HD up to 30 fps from the front camera. The video performance is very similar on both these phones. If I had to nitpick, the videos shot with the iPhone SE have better dynamic range and OIS performance, but frankly the difference is basically negligible. To conclude, both the iPhones offer very similar camera performance and user experience. Therefore, I'd call it a tie. At the end of the day, it would come down to personal preference. If you prefer to shoot on a larger screen, which is essentially a larger viewfinder, the XR is the right iPhone for you, and if you prefer a more compact smartphone, then the iPhone SE should fit in nicely. Talking about the battery, there's just no comparison here. The iPhone SE definitely has the poorest battery life out of all the iPhones that are on sale today, while the iPhone XR has one of the best. Apple advertises the iPhone XR as a battery champ, and for good reason. It just lasts immensely long no matter what you throw at it. The iPhone SE on the other hand gives okayish endurance which nosedives to downright bad levels once you switch to more processor intensive tasks. When it comes to the battery life, it couldn't be more obvious that the iPhone XR is the clear winner. Even my 2-year-old iPhone XR lasts way longer than this fresh iPhone SE. When it comes to biometrics, things get a little more subjective. See, for me personally, these days I prefer Touch ID because the masks get in the way of Face ID. But at the same time, I cannot simply deny the simple convenience of the Face ID experience where you just wake up your phone and start using it because it looks at your face and unlocks by itself. You don't have to do anything particularly to unlock your phone, it just works. But honestly, these are just very nitty-gritty details. In real life, I would be equally satisfied with either of the two options. Now, signal reception was actually better on the iPhone SE in my experience. The actual call quality was pretty much the same on both these phones, but the iPhone SE held on to cellular reception better than the iPhone XR. To conclude, if you're in the market for a new iPhone and want the best value option, is it the iPhone SE or the iPhone XR? Well, the main question is, how important is a compact phone to you? Because if compactness is not a big deal, then the answer couldn't be more obvious. For a drop in the processing power, you get a more modern design, larger display, and much better battery life. Of course, the iPhone XR is not a small phone, especially when you compare it to the iPhone SE. So if you're someone who prefers small phones, you already know the answer. And if you're someone who doesn't, you still know the answer. I hope this video helped you out, and if it did, please share the video with someone who is facing a similar dilemma. If you have any questions, hit up the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe and like. This has been Rohan from TechieTechTech, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.